Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about 30, 60, 90 triangles. 30, 60, 90 are similar to 45, 45, 90, the other type of special right triangles. These ones, instead of using cursive L's, use cursive S's from the textbook. I don't know why they went from L to S, but hey, it's not that big of a deal. I think it's just so you don't think, oh, they're the same. I don't know. All right. What's important to know is that the smallest angle is always going to be opposite of the smallest side. So this is my short side. The longest angle, the hypotenuse, is always going to be opposite from the right angle. That's the 2s side. So my medium one is the medium-sized angle, 30, 60, 90. 60 is the middle term. So that's the medium. So you'll notice S and 2s are pretty normal. I just take whatever the number of the s is, multiply it times 2 for the hypotenuse. And then you take whatever number the s is and throw a square root 3 next to it. So 30, 60, 90 has a square root 3 instead of a square root 2 from 45, 45, 90. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a 60 degree here, just so we're clear. And then I'm going to label this as my S side. And I'm going to label this as my 2s side. And I'm going to label this as my S square root 3 side. Again, because it's across from, S is across from 30, S radical 3 across from 60, 2s across from 90. All right, now it's just, since S is 12, then Y is going to be 24, because 12 times 2. And this one's just 12 square root 3. And that's all that one is. I can do the Pythagorean theorem, like I showed you on the 45, 45, 91, but I don't want to. It's going to take a while. So this is my S square root 3. So that means 3 is S. Which one's S? Well, this is 90, so this is my 2s one. So that means this one's 2 times 3, which is 6. So that means A is the S side, and that's true, because by process of elimination, I know that's 30. And so A is going to equal 6. 3. And that's it for the first two. This one, you try. What do you think this is? I have 4 here, I have 2 there. What's the relationship? Well, 4 is twice the value of 2. So the 2s side has got to be 4, the s side has got to be 2. I'm looking for the s square root 3. So if s is 2, I'm going to write a 2 right there. So h equals 2 square root 3. Done. All right, ask yourself, what is going to be the y? Well, y is across from 90, so what's 9 times 2? 18. Y is across from, x is across from 60, so that's going to be 9 square root 3. And that's it. That's the pattern. The 60 is across from the s radical 3, the 30 is across from just the smallest side, s, 90 is across from the hypotenuse. Didn't realize the bottom was cut off. That's okay, I'll fix it. I'll do these two real quick. Okay, 30 is across from 4 square root 3, so this must be the s side. But you're like, but wait, it has a square root 3 next to it. Shouldn't it be the s square root 3 side? Just because it has a square root 3 next to it doesn't mean it's a square root 3 side. It matters what angle it's across from. So if s is the square root of 3, if s is 4 square root 3, then 2s is 2 times 4, which is 8. And so you just say 8 square root 3. So the curveball here is, what do I do for this s square root 3 side? Well, look, if s was 4 square root 3, then s square root 3 is just 4 square root 3 square root 3. And you're like, that's it? That's the answer? Well, yes and no. Yes, that is the answer, but no, I don't want you to write it like that. This makes, if you square a square root, that makes the number. So this makes 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. So 12 is the answer for A. Let's see here. So here I have a radical 3 number. And so you're like, oh, this is S radical 3. No. It's across from the 90. So if it's across from the 90, it's the 2S side. So I got to think, okay, well, which side is the S? A is. So what's half of 3? 1.5. So I go 1.5 square root 3. Or since we cut it in half, because 2S is twice as big as S, so I got to cut it in half. It's more proper to leave it as a fraction. So I'm going to write 3 square root 3 over 2 instead of 1.5 square root 3. That's just because if you're simplifying things, you shouldn't have a decimal. You should have fractions. That's just kind of how math people write it. Yeah, if you were to do it by the dividing by the radical way that I did in the 45/45/90, you'd get the fraction answer because you rationalized it. That's just kind of like, if you don't know what I mean, don't worry about it. Yeah, so that's what happens when you get a decimal. You can leave it as a fraction. It's okay. So here I have S radical 3 here, and I have 3 square root 3 over 2 as my S, and then I have an extra square root 3. So that's going to be like on top. So my answer just turns into 3 times 3, because these two will just make a 3. Another 3. So 3 times 3 over 2 is 9 over 2. And at this point, since I don't have anything else with it, you could leave it as 9 over 2, or you could say the answer is 4.5. But again, I put this other one in fraction form because I had this square root 3 next to it. That's just a plain old 4.5. So that's why I left it like that. Like I said, if that confuses you, then leave it as 9 over 2. It's the same thing as doing 1.5 times 3. See, I did square root 3, square root 3. If I had done 1.5 times that, I would have gotten 4.5. Maybe I'm saying too much. But let's fix this. So let me get okay, so this one's supposed to go kind of like that. And there's a 30 degree here. And then there's a 15 here. So 60 is looking at the 15, which is S square root 3. So remember how in the other video I made an even number that was for the S square root 2 on, no, even or odd, it doesn't matter. And I divided it by 2 and put a square root 2 next to it. Well, this one's got a square root 3. I got to make square root 3 a factor of 15. So I'm going to divide it by 3. I got to make 15 look like S square root 3. So 15 is 5 times 3. 5 times 3 is the same thing as saying 5 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, which means this is my S, and that's the extra radical 3 from the S radical 3 side. So I figured out the short side is S. Which side is the short side? 30 looks at the short side, so 5 radical 3. See, so 15, if that's the S radical 3, I just divide it by 3, throw a radical 3 by it. Then I'm going to take this number and times it by 2, because this is the 2S side. So this one's going to equal 10 square root 3. The other way you could do this is if 15 equals S square root 3, then I'm going to divide each side by square root 3 to solve for S. But we can't have a fraction on the bottom. So 15 divided by the square root of 3, I got to rationalize it. so I got to multiply it. To rationalize, you multiply it by whatever's on the bottom, you make that on top and bottom, because that's like multiplying a 1. It would cancel out, be times 1. So that's going to make 3 on the bottom. So this says 15 square root 3 over 3. And since 15 over 3 makes 5, I rewrite this whole thing to make 5 square root 3. So I think my way is actually shorter, but if this other way makes more sense to you, then do it that way. I just want it to make sense to you. Okay, so this one was a right angle. I had x here and y there. Okay, so y is my s side because it is opposite of the 30. 12 square root 3 is my 2s side because it's opposite of the 90. And so this one is 60 degrees, and that's looking at x. So this is the s square root 3 side. So let's start with y, since it's easy to cut something in half. Y is going to be 6 square root 3 because I just cut 12 square root 3 in half. You pretty much just leave the square root 3 there. And so x is going to be 6 square root 3 for the s with the extra square root 3. 2 square root 3's together make a 3, so this is saying 6 times 3. The answer is 18. So if you have a whole number for your square root 3 side, then your other two sides will have a square root 3. And if you have a square root 3 on your square root 3 side, then your other two numbers will be whole numbers. That's another kind of pattern to pick up on. All right, I'm going to do the last couple examples on the other page. All right, a 25-foot ladder is leaning against a building. So I'll put 25 like that, and this will represent my building. And that'll represent the floor. The foot of the ladder makes a 60-degree angle, the foot at the bottom, with the ground. See, so foot's at the bottom, the ground's on the bottom. That's how I knew to put 60 at the bottom. How far is the ladder from the base of the building? So we can assume the building makes a 90-degree angle with the ground. So if 90 degrees looking at 25, then this is my 2s side. Hopefully my s's don't look all like 5s, but I'm not perfect, so hope you're listening to the audio. So 2s is 25. So 60 is looking at s square root 3. So the floor is s, and I'm looking for how far is the ladder from the base of the building. So I'm just looking for this. Just cut 25 in half. 25 in half is 12.5. Or 25 over 2 if you want to leave it in fraction form. That's all there is to that one because I knew this much right triangles. So once you try these couple examples, maybe pause the video and try it yourself. But I'm going to go ahead and go over these. 60 is my s square root 3. So much like the other example where I had 15 as s square root 3, I'm going to make 12. I'm going to expand out 12 to incorporate the square root of 3 as a factor of that. So 12 is going to equal 4 times 3, and 4 times 3 is 4 square root 3 square root 3. So in other words, I'm making 12 look like the square root of 3, the s square root 3 side. Look like the definition. So there's is my s, that's the extra radical 3. So s is 4 radical 3. Which side is s? Well, this is 60, that's 90, this is 30. So x is going to equal the s part. So x is 4 square root 3. And so the hypotenuse is always double that. So this is 2 times 4, which is 8. And throw a radical 3 on there. So here are my two answers. This one, I got square root of 3 for the s side. So my s square root 3, well, if square root 3 was s, then replace s with square root 3 and write the extra square root 3. We've already gone over a couple of examples where two square roots of the same number will just equal that number, 3. So to do 2s, well, look, if I have 1 square root of 3, now multiply it times 2. I have 2 square root of 3. That's all there is to that. And a 12-foot long bed of a dump truck loaded with debris must rise to An angle of 30 degrees before the debris will spill out. Approximately how high must the front of the bed rise for the debris to spill out? I'm just looking for this side. And notice it's across from 30 degrees. And notice this is across from 90 degrees. So this is the 2S side, and I'm looking for the S side. So S is half of 12. S equals, not 12, 6. 6 feet. It's over. Enjoy. Bye.